So now I'm really, really pleased to be able to invite Mona to come and talk to us from May Project Gardens in London. So something really, really grounded, but really, really inspirational. Mona.
Let's hope so, Frances. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, so actually following on slightly from what Hannah was saying as well about creativity and culture. So we are a grassroots organisation in South London, on sort of the edges of London in Morden, for anybody who is aware of London. So I guess primarily we are a permaculture designed community garden that was set up at the back of the council house of our co-founder, and it still exists at the back of this council house. So we exist on social housing property and are in the process at the moment of trying to kind of raise the money and the awareness to try and buy this as a community asset, but it is still not a space that we own. We've been there for about 15 years, and the first 9 years of that was completely unincorporated, informal, a very much like a movement and a kind of grassroots entity that was developed by the people that were benefiting from it. So there wasn't this idea of creating programs and initiatives that you then retrospectively need to try and put loads of effort into doing outreach for. It was created by the people that were running it and benefiting from it. I guess our tagline essentially is reconnecting people with nature for personal, social and economic transformation. And we very much see that as kind of giving people in urban environments, first of all, a much more personal connection to the cause and starting to feel something emotional about it, which can then lead to some sort of collective social behavior, which in turn will then lead to some sort of economic transformation for the people involved. We work mostly with what you might call kind of marginalized communities in the city, and that includes a lot of young refugees and asylum seekers at the moment who are generally unaccompanied minors in the city, which does mean that they often come from places that are a lot more rural and perhaps much more in touch with environmentalism in a way that we might not be, or in a much more practical way. And then they end up in these very urban environments. And so they come to the space almost seeking healing and connection, and actually bring a lot of knowledge to the space that we might not even have. And then we work in general with a lot of local kind of families, low-income families and young people in general. Going and drawing upon the creativity side, we basically have a youth program which won the Team London Award in 2015 for kind of innovative work with young people, and it's called Hip Hop Garden. And that basically looks to fuse popular urban youth culture with the kind of environmental movement as a way of making it interesting, exciting and accessible to young people, to bring them along in a way that again doesn't sort of criticize their way of life and actually tries to find a sense of synergy between the lifestyles that they do lead without kind of judging them for that, and without necessarily constantly having a go at them for being on smartphones or, I don't know, wanting to buy new trainers, but kind of making them see that there might be some of the creativity and the innovation and the ideas generation of something like hip hop that could be brought to the environmental sector. And that's, I'm going to show you a film about that in just a moment. As a very small and local project, and I think one of the terms that I was recently taught by my colleague is glocal, which might be fitting, which also I think I saw on Hannah's slides, new to me, but essentially that is the point. Like, we have this very localized model that works because it really builds on personal relationship building and community building in a very real sense of that word. But obviously, to have any kind of large impact, we work in partnerships a lot, and we really work to try and spread the methodology and work with projects that are doing either the same thing as us in different places or different things to us. One of the ways in which we've done that recently is that we've launched our own media channel in partnership with a media production company. It's called Untelevised. And the idea of that was literally like, how do we bridge the gap between the people that create media and tell the narratives with the actual grassroots projects and stories that kind of need to be told but are not resourced to tell them. So we've created this media channel. We've been running it for about a couple of years. We started showcasing a lot of grassroots work through this media channel, and just as of this month have won a sort of news and media award, and are going to be working with the Lankelly Chase Foundation here in London to actually expand that channel. So the idea was democratic media. So that's kind of how we like to try and work, is to figure out who's got some of the other skills and the other reach that we don't have, and how do we bridge that? We also try very much to kind of, we do have people in our midst who do have slightly more strategic policy knowledge. My background before I became a co-director was for a while in kind of social policy and in the youth policy team within the Cabinet Office. And so we use the media channel as a way of saying, how do we translate strategy and policy down to the grassroots, but how do we also actually then translate findings from the grassroots up into the kind of policy sphere that it needs to be? And we try and do this with funders that we work with as well, like always influencing them to fund differently, because I think that's actually one of the also really crucial things when a lot of grassroots projects perceive themselves as being in competition for funds. And so recently, we actually applied for the Sustainable Futures Fund by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. And actually one of the things they said to us, we might not fund you because you are so small and local, and we tend to go for much larger infrastructure kind of organizations. And the pitch that we put in, partly saying that we work with young people that come from all over the world. And so actually our knowledge and our reach is kind of by default international. And they did make an exception and fund a kind of small grassroots project for the first time. So this is kind of the way that we are trying to move at the moment. I don't want to talk too long. I just, we have a film which is from our youth program and kind of shows where we try and bridge environmentalism with creativity and kind of local community building, which I'm hoping will work.
Thank you, Mona.
Thank you. Sorry if that was a bit long.
It was worth every moment. There's nothing to add to that. That was incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hand over to Jane and Susan now.